Hello and welcome to Middle Eastern Thursday. So today we are going to do this. So I had a video such as this one maybe about 3 months ago, if not less. And the whole purpose of this video is there's been just so many releases when it comes to affordable Middle Eastern fragrances that I just really think it is important that every so often we stop and we talk about, okay, between all of these fragrances that all seem to have the same scent profile, which one do you recommend, Arahi, and why? Or what are the differences between one and the other? Now, in addition to that, another reason that I do this type of video is because on a daily basis, I get so many DMs on Instagram and so many emails and just questions everywhere about different fragrances. And sometimes, the questions that I'm asked, I'm like, okay, I really need to get back to the fam on this because that makes no sense, right? So today I want to answer all of those questions and just have a good time. I hope you have your snack. I hope you picked a drink. The other thing before we get started is that I wanted to remind you that there will be a bonus Middle Eastern fragrances video this week, and it is coming this Sunday morning. And in that video, I will be giving you a detailed review of the latest Cahier launch, which is Peach Delulu. Yes, Peach Delulu. And I have so much to say about that fragrance, so you really don't want to miss that review. I do have a short here on the channel and on Instagram where I shared with you the unboxing of the fragrance and gave you a little bit of information, but not much. But anyway, I will see you all hopefully on Sunday. And let's get right to it because we have quite the number of fragrances to talk about today. But before we do so, if this is your first time here, I'm Arahi and I'm your fragrance concierge because I'm totally committed to creating the best fragrance experience for you. I upload videos multiple times a week, and on this channel, we love to talk about all types of fragrances. So if that sounds like the type of content that you're interested in and like a good plan, then please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave a comment. Let's go. All right, so I went ahead and I brought down the lights a little bit because it was like way too bright in here and it's like reflecting on like the perfume bottles and it just wasn't very flattering. But anyway, I hope this is better. And that way, if I have to show you a bottle, maybe, the camera will pick it up better. But let's go ahead and start. And of course, we have a new tradition. And, I do forget to do this in quite the number of videos and I apologize. But the lipstick of the day before you ask me in the comments section is, again, you guys know I've been obsessed with this Chanel formula, and I'm obsessed with this formula for years. By the way, this is not new. And this is from Chanel, Le Rouge Duo, and this is in 122 Coral. And I've told you time and time again that the reason I love this lipstick is because, when I'm filming, if I'm wearing lipstick, what if the lipstick like rubs off on my teeth? And then I'm talking to you, showing you, my teeth with this lipstick, and you're like, Arahi, but nobody can really tell me. So, I wait till I'm done filming and then I have to like find a way to edit it out, which is not always possible. But anyway, so I love this lipstick because it doesn't really come off. It's a non-transfer, and they mean it when they say non-transfer, because this is one that when you put it on and then you put, it has like two formulas. There's like the lipstick on this side and then there's the serum that you put on top, and then that seals the lipstick for some reason, and it just doesn't come off for hours and hours. You can do whatever you want, and that lipstick is just not moving. And then the lip liner is also from Chanel, and I've also discussed this one here on the channel, but this one is Blood Orange, and this is from their long-lasting lip liner collection. I will have everything in the description box for you. I'll have a link for you in case you're interested in picking it up. All right, so before we get started with these fragrances, let's have a little conversation about the importance of the first steps that you take whenever you receive a Middle Eastern fragrance, because this has got to be the question that I get the most every day. And this is something that I have shared with you here on the channel. We've discussed it. I also leave this in the comments section all the time, but I don't mind repeating it. I'm going to say it again because this is really, really important. So When it comes to affordable Middle Eastern fragrances, it is critical, not important, no, it is critical to you having a good experience with a fragrance or giving the fragrance a fair opportunity, a fair try. It is critical that when you receive the fragrance, the first thing you do is spray it out. So let me give you this example. So let's say that you just received your Elysia vanilla, right? Which we're going to talk about next. Yes. The first thing you want to do is, of course, take it out of the packaging, the box, and all of that, and then remove the cap, and then spray the fragrance out at least 8 times, fully spraying it, which means that you're going to bring down the mechanism completely at least 8 times. Now, I had someone ask me, okay, Arahi, why 8 times? Is that like a magical number? It's not a magical number, but the reason I say 8 times is to help you understand that you have to spray the fragrance out a good number of times. You can do 6 times, you can do 8 times, you can do 10 times. In all honesty, I don't do 8 times. I do like 12 times because I'm extra. So I just spray it and spray it. But as soon as you do that, you put the cap back on the fragrance and then you just put it away. And you put it away for at least a week before spraying it on skin again. And you repeat that process every week or every 2 weeks, whatever works for you, with the exception of spraying out the fragrance. You only have to spray out the fragrance the first time when you first receive it. After that, you just pull the fragrance every week and you spray it on your skin and you see how the scent starts to progress, because that is what's going to happen. That is a given with, I would say, 99% of the affordable Middle Eastern fragrances that I have had experiences with. And if you're a Femme member who has seen a Middle Eastern fragrance transform through allowing it to sit for weeks or months at a time, can you please share that with us in the comment section so that others understand that this is real and it is very, very important? Because the number one comment and question that I get every day is, Arahi, so you said that this smells so good, but when I received it, this smells terrible. It makes me want to gag. All types of things. I get all types of comments. And then I have to, again, patiently reply and say, hey, did you spray out the fragrance when you received it? Did you then put it away, allow it to sit for a couple of weeks before trying it again on skin? So I figured that in this type of video, it would be a good idea for me to start by sharing that very, very important step as it relates to the management and ensuring that you have a great experience when it comes to affordable Middle Eastern fragrances. So we are going to start by talking about 3 fragrances that truly remind me of another fragrance. Okay, these 3 fragrances remind me of another fragrance. And you know, as soon as I sprayed them, they reminded me of this fragrance, and it is Kayali Vanilla 28. Now, these 3 fragrances are one from Fragrance World. The other one is from Gulf Orchid, and it is Vanilla Addiction. And the third one is from Paris Corner, and it's Eshal. Now, I have the 3 fragrances here, and the question that I get all of the time is, which one of the 3 should you pick? Now, we've had this conversation several times, but today I feel like, you know, it's a better conversation because you guys know this was the first one. If you've been with me for a while, this was the first one that I picked up of the 3, followed by Paris Corner Eshal, and ending with Gulf Orchid Vanilla. Right? Vanilla Addiction. Now, here's the thing when it comes to these 3 fragrances. The one that to me has the most vanilla still to this day, and it is the one that has had a chance to sit the most in my collection, but it is definitely Fragrance World Elysia Vanilla. Okay. Now, when it comes to Eshal, what I get from Eshal is more of a floral presence than what I get in Elysia Vanilla. These 3 fragrances all have florals for sure, but when it comes to Eshal, I get more of a floral presence than that I get from both Elysia Vanilla and Vanilla Addiction. Now, when it comes to Vanilla Addiction, the difference is that the coconut here is creamy and is more present than in the other 2. There is definitely a creamy coconut in this fragrance that comes through the vanilla. It is definitely not more dominant than the vanilla, but there is definitely a present coconut in this one. So it really depends on what you're looking for, right? So again, Eshal will have more florals for you. Vanilla Addiction will bring that fruity coconut. It's not a fruity fragrance. It's all about the vanilla, but the coconut does peek through. And then in Elysia, it is all about the vanilla pretty much, because all the other notes and accords are pretty faint in the background. So I hope that that answered that question of which one do I recommend. Which one do I recommend the most? It depends on what you're looking for. That's really, when it comes to those three, that's what I would say. So next, I want to talk to you about a fragrance that I hauled and I gave you an initial review of several months ago. So this fragrance has had a chance to sit in my collection. And today, I just really want to talk about this fragrance with you because it is a fragrance that reminds me quite a bit of a Creed fragrance. And that Creed fragrance would be Carmina. And while there have been several other affordable Middle Eastern fragrances that, have been launched and that reminded me of Carmina, I have to tell you that to me, this is the one that really reminds me the most of that fragrance. And I am going to talk to you about this one, and this is Zimaya Charisma. Now, Zimaya Charisma is a fragrance that has quite a bit of a rose presence. But the thing about this rose is that it's not jammy, it's not dated, but it's also, to my nose, not a freshly bloomed rose. This is a rose that bloomed maybe a day or two ago, so you're getting that rose scent, but it has not started to mature to the point of then starting to smell like dated or jammy in any kind of way. But definitely you have quite a bit of rose in this fragrance. And in addition to that, you are going to have violet. Those two florals are the stars of this fragrance, truly. The fragrance is very ambery. It is sweet, not very sweet. It has a good bit of musk. The musk here, I would say, is like a level 3, but it's not animalic in any kind of way, because the star of this fragrance, truly, to my nose and on paper, are those florals. But if you are looking for a fragrance that may remind you of Carmina, then I would say that Charisma, right, from Zimaya is your best choice to date. All right, so next I want to talk to you about 3 fragrances, but we're going to go ahead and start by me discussing with you 2 fragrances first, and then I'm going to bring in the third one because to me the third one is a wild card. So what happened here is I already had my video planned and I was talking to a Femme member and they reminded me of the third fragrance, and I decided to also include it in this grouping because, if that Femme member brought it up, then I'm sure that this question is going to come up from someone else. But I have received this question so many times, and one of these fragrances was just launched. So let's start by talking about the latest launch from Paris Corner, well, one of the latest launches, and this one is Jardin de Papillons. Now, Jardin de Papillons is a fragrance that has not been sitting in my collection for a very long time. It really has not. But I have to tell you that from the first moment I sprayed it out, it reminded me a lot, of Dolce & Gabbana's Devotion, truly. But there are differences between, let's say, Victoria from Lattafa, which is a fragrance that also reminds me considerably of Dolce & Gabbana Devotion. So let's talk about both of these fragrances in a minute. But since I had not discussed this one with you here on the channel, I'm going to go ahead and give you a brief review of the fragrance. So Jardin de Papillons is a fragrance that at first sniff opens very, very citrusy. But this citrusy quality is also zesty. It's almost like if you took off the peel of a lemon and you're almost sniffing that amongst the citrusy accords in the opening of the fragrance. This fragrance is also loaded with vanilla. It is sweet, not a little bit sweet, not just sweet. It is very sweet, but not super sweet to the point of being, sickly sweet or cloying sweet. No. This fragrance definitely is sweet, but not to that point. There is a level of tartness that comes with that opening that will be with you throughout the entire olfactory journey of the fragrance and throughout the wear, for sure. Now, this fragrance, which reminds me very much, as I told you before, of Devotion, is a fragrance that what I like about it is that the opening and the entire wear experience of the fragrance is airier. I don't get so much of like that sickly, bordering on sickly in Devotion, you know, lemon presence and those citrusy notes. There is an airiness that makes this, in my opinion, more wearable throughout the entire year than that you find in the one that it reminds me of. Now, let's talk about when it comes to Victoria. Now, here's the thing when it comes to these two fragrances, and then I'm going to bring in a third one. So these two fragrances definitely have the same scent profile, truly. But I must say that there are differences between these two fragrances and the one that they really do remind me of quite a bit. So when it comes to Victoria, Victoria is a fragrance that has smoothed out some of the screechiness that you or some of you find and pick up in the OG, right? In the one that it reminds me of quite a bit. But when it comes to this new one, Jardin de Papillons, this one is even smoother. It's not that it's more refined than Victoria. No, it's just that it is airier. So of these two, definitely Jardin de Papillons is airier, and it is also less sweet and less intense than Victoria. But it just so happens that Victoria reminds me even more of Dolce & Gabbana Devotion. It does remind me much more than Jardin de Papillons. But let's just say the following. So Victoria has been sitting in my collection for months. This one just arrived not too long ago, so it really has not had a chance to sit in my collection. So that may be that difference that we're finding. But I am telling you, if I had to be a guessing girl, this one will continue to be airier than Victoria. It may definitely increase in intensity, but I don't think that it's going to be as dense as Victoria and as close as Victoria comes to the OG. Again, if the one that it reminds me of was really a problem for you because it was a bit too screechy, then you really want to try Victoria. But if you wanted it to be airier and in general you just did not enjoy that DNA because it was maybe too dense, then Jardin de Papillons is one that you may want to give a try. Now that we've discussed these differences, let's talk about a third fragrance that, while not reminding me exactly of Dolce & Gabbana Devotion, I find to be in that same family scent profile. You may agree, you may not, but this is just my opinion. Keep that in mind. Let's talk about Cadlage Empire Victor. This fragrance to me, and I've discussed this here on the channel before, this is a masterpiece to me. And if you are a Femme member that are not looking to spend in multiple fragrances that fall under the same scent profile with just minimal differences, then if you just want one fragrance to cover that scent profile, right? And there's other fragrances that fall within this scent profile, but let's just keep it within, Victoria and Jardin de Papillons and the one that it reminds me of, Dolce & Gabbana Devotion. If you want one that encompasses that scent profile and then some, that performs beautifully and that is a great fragrance to add to your collection, Cadlage Empire Victor. Now, what I will tell you is that this fragrance is, in my opinion, more refined. It comes across on paper and on skin as more refined than all of the others, okay? All of the others. And when it comes to this fragrance, I can tell you that the performance is stellar. It is a high compliment getter and it is highly addictive. But the other two that I shared with you today may be more on point, right? Or remind me more of the original, right? Because those two fragrances are truly the exact same profile. This one is not the exact same scent profile, but it is very, very close. And it covers other scent profiles so that you don't have to pick up 5 or 7 fragrances of the same. I hope that all makes sense. I hope that is also helpful. And I hope that answered the question that I get all the time. In addition to that, look at this beautiful bottle. I just forgot to show you the bottle. So let me just take a moment to show you. Very, very nicely done. Very, very beautiful, beautiful bottle. Very, very nice. Anyway, so moving on. All right, so the next two fragrances that I want to discuss with you have got to be the two fragrances that I've received the most questions for the last, I would say, like 6 months. So one of them came out first, and I did bring it to the channel, and I discussed it with you, and I gave you a detailed review, and I talked to you about the one that it reminds me of. And both of these fragrances, by the way, remind me tremendously of Creed Queen of Silk, okay, which is a fragrance that I own. I actually own all of the fragrances that I'm going to tell you today that they remind me of. I own all of these fragrances, but when it comes to these two, as soon as they were launched, I keep getting the same question. And I had not brought these two to this type of video because I wanted to allow them both to sit. Because when it comes to the DNA, right, of a fragrance such as Queen of Silk, which they both really remind me of, that is not an easy scent profile, right? That is not for everybody. That fragrance can be a bit polarizing. So I wanted to make sure that I could be as concise as possible when talking about these two. So of course, you guys know that I'm talking about Maison Alhambra Avant Silk. And of course, you know I'm talking about Riff's Areebah. Okay, so let me just start by talking about the packaging of both of these fragrances, because I think that's really, really important. So I really think that the packaging of Maison Alhambra is absolutely exquisite. It's weighty. It doesn't feel cheap in any kind of way. It's very luxurious. I really do think this is very, very nice. Okay, very luxurious feeling. Now, when it comes to this one from Riffs, let me just start by pulling this out of here. First of all, the bottle, when I first received it, I really did like it. I have never been a fan of this, I don't even know, like, it's like a pedestal that it needs to be encased in order for you to stand the fragrance. But the problem is that this keeps, you know, this is so heavy and this is very plasticky with no weight to it. So it really doesn't hold the fragrance. So that to me has been very, very annoying. I cannot sit this fragrance next to any other Middle Eastern fragrance in those shelves, because this one can topple at any moment and just make all the others roll, right? And that would be a disaster. But in addition to that, as time has gone by, this one has a crack, right? So even the bottle, right, which is quite weighty here, and it felt really good at the beginning, even that has been a disappointment for me because it is plastic. This is plastic. You can hear it. And it has a crack. I don't know if you can see the crack there. I hope the camera is picking it up. And the cap also feels quite inexpensive, like, you know, yeah. But anyway, so that is how I feel about the packaging of these two fragrances. But now let's talk about the juice. So here's the thing. When it comes to Avant Silk to me reminds me the most of Creed Queen of Silk of the two, truly. But here's the beauty. If you are one of those Femme members that has struggled with Avant Silk, or that struggled with Queen of Silk itself, right? Because as I said before, it is a very polarizing fragrance. It's not for everybody. It's not a friendly scent profile. It is very intense. I absolutely love that fragrance, and I love these also. But at the end of the day, I must admit, it is a very polarizing fragrance, and it's not for everybody, and it is not a safe blind buy. Please keep that in mind. Now, how do these two compare? When it comes to these two, I have to tell you that even though the packaging is not my favorite, when it comes to Areebah to me smooths out all of the kinks and quirks and issues that some of you may have found in Avant Silk and in the one that it reminds me of, right? So bottom line, if you were looking for the one that is going to really, really, really remind you of Creed Queen of Silk, then Avant Silk is the one for you. If you are looking, you like that scent profile, but you just can't get past some of the screechiness that is inherent to this scent profile, then you definitely want to try or go for Areebah. I hope that that answers that question once and for all. I do have reviews of both of these fragrances on the channel, so I'm not going to review them today. But I am telling you, smoother, worked out all the quirks, true to its original nature. Now, the next fragrance that I want to discuss with you is from Lattafa Pride, and this one is Sur Mesure Noir. So this is a fragrance that some say reminds them of Tom Ford Noir de Noir, and others say Black Orchid. And all I wanted to share with you today is that what this one truly reminds me of, like truly reminds me of, is Tom Ford Noir de Noir. So as soon as I spray this fragrance, that is what it reminds me of immediately. And this is a very woody, warm, spicy, extremely aromatic kind of fragrance that is not cloying in any way. It has quite a bit of citrusy, a citrusy quality to it. And it is one that I can honestly tell you could probably get away with wearing all year, right? But at the end of the day, what I wanted to let you know today, because I've already reviewed it, is that this is a fragrance that really reminds me only of Noir de Noir by Tom Ford. So this next fragrance is a very recent launch from Lattafa, and I have not had a chance to share it with you here on the channel, but I don't think that I really need to give you a detailed review because we have seen this scent profile time and time again. So I just think that I really want to tell you or give you or answer your question, right? Which is the opinion of what is the fragrance that reminds me the most of Kilian's Angel Share. And within Kilian Angel Share, specifically the latest one, which is Paradis. And I'm speaking about Fire on Ice, which is the latest launch from Lattafa. This is a fragrance that is very woody. It is warm, spicy. It has a certain degree of fruitiness to it. It is very ambery. It is a fragrance that to me is not a year-round kind of fragrance whatsoever. It has a fruity aspect to it with a very dominant and prominent note of raspberry for sure. And it's also warm, spicy. And the one spice that sticks out the most in this one is the cinnamon. That tends to be the case in this one and the next one that I'm going to talk about, which I'm going to compare it to. But of the two here, the cinnamon is a bit more present. Now, this is a more recent launch than the one that I'm going to discuss with you next. So just keep that in mind. So the one that we're going to compare it to is from French Avenue, and this one is Royal Blend Sequoia. Now, Royal Blend Sequoia is a fragrance that I just reviewed for you here recently. And here's what I have to say. These two have both not had a chance to sit much in my collection. They have been sitting for just about the same amount of time. But of the two, the one that reminds me immediately and almost with no fail in any aspect of Angel Share Paradis would be definitely Royal Blend Sequoia. To me, this is an exceptionally done fragrance. The packaging, everything is in sync. To me, the development of this fragrance was very well thought through, and they did take their time, and I think this is absolutely exceptional. This, to me, and I'm just going to say it, is if you are into Angel Share, and Paradis is one, you know, because it was launched recently, and that's one that you could not get your hands on for whatever reason, you may want to consider trying this one, because I am telling you, it is absolutely exceptional. Fire on Ice is also very nice, and take a look at the bottle. It actually looks like it has like an ice cube in it. This is a very nice fragrance, but when I compare these two, this to me is so much reminding me so much more of Angel Share Paradis. All right, so next we're going to talk about just two fragrances, and there's other fragrances that have been launched that did remind me of Tom Ford Vanilla Sex. But when it comes specifically to Tom Ford Vanilla Sex, today I just want to talk about Sensual Vanilla from Maison Alhambra and Lattafa Sehr. Now, I know there's many Femme members that just do not like the cap on this fragrance, and I've told you time and time again to just take the cap off and find another cap or something to cover it with, or just leave it like that, because this is an exceptional fragrance. And what I'm here to say today is that now that this one has had a chance to sit, I still can tell you that Lattafa Sehr is the one that reminds me the most of Tom Ford Vanilla Sex. There are negligible differences, in my opinion, between this one and Tom Ford Vanilla Sex, but it definitely reminds me more of that fragrance than Sensual Vanilla. Sensual Vanilla reminds me a lot of that fragrance, but the bitter almond note here is so pronounced, and the more this has had the chance to sit, the more pronounced that bitter almond note has become. And while they both have a ton of vanilla and it's the exact same scent profile, that one note and accords that go along with it really has made a difference. And I can tell you that I'm still saying that this is the one that you want to get your hands on, if that is a scent profile that you're interested in. I hope that that answers that question once and for all. Any other fragrance that reminds me of Tom Ford Vanilla Sex, if I didn't bring it, it's because I have totally dismissed it because the differences are not negligible. And these two, to me, remind me more of that fragrance than any other. All right, so next I want to share with you a couple of fragrances that have really not worked for me and that I'm circling back on for you because we have definitely discussed, hauled, reviewed, sometimes multiple times, these fragrances. If you've been with me for a while, you may recall my first impression of each one of these fragrances and how I really felt. And nothing has changed. Some of them have become actually worse. So I'm just going to speak briefly because you guys know how much I hate to, discuss the negative aspects of a fragrance, in not a very nice way. But these two are two that were serious disappointments. So I'm going to go rather quickly. The first one is from Grandeur, and this one is Tempt Blanc. Now, this is a fragrance that many people say reminds them of Kayali Vanilla 28. I just discussed with you 3 other fragrances that do remind me of Kayali Vanilla 28. This one does remind me of Vanilla 28, but there are considerable differences. The reminder here is very, very faint. This is a fragrance that I also do not like its blend. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm just not impressed or liking this fragrance whatsoever. Does the scent, is it that the scent is not good? No, it is a pleasant scent. It's just that because it reminds me of that fragrance from the get-go, then I'm expecting to find certain things that are not in this fragrance, but are very much present in the other 3 that I shared with you earlier today. So this fragrance has quite a bit of vanilla. It has had a chance to sit in my collection. I have used it several times. I have compared it to the others and to the one that it reminds me of. And I can tell you that this one lacks a depth that I do find in the other 3. I don't get the ambery effect that I get from all of the others with this fragrance. And to me, this is a straight sweet vanilla. That's really what it is. It's like almost, it's not a cooking vanilla, but it is just a sweet vanilla. That's all. So the fragrance is very linear to me. On paper and on my skin, the fragrance is very linear and it has little to no depth. So that is all I'm going to say. This is not a success for me at all. All right, so the next fragrance is one that if you have been a loyal viewer of Middle Eastern Thursday, you will recall when I hauled this fragrance and I was so excited for it because number one, the bottle to me is just so cute and so adorable. And also the fragrance house, which is Ministry of Gourmand, is a fragrance house that had never disappointed me. And still to this day, all of the fragrances that I've tried from Ministry of Gourmand have been pretty much a love, except this one. I'm just going to say this, I rarely find a fragrance that at first sniff really provokes the feeling, the emotion, the physical reaction that I had to this fragrance. And if you've seen that video, you may recall. I have had this fragrance sitting in my collection for months and months and months, and nothing has changed. On the contrary, I tried about 2 days ago to try it on skin again. and I had to run almost immediately and go scrub it off, and I couldn't scrub enough. That's all I'm going to say, but I am speaking about Ministry of Gourmand, and this one is Cake Temptation. This was a complete fail for me. I'm not going to say any more, but no need to continue to talk about it. Yes, this is definitely going to be decluttered. I'm not gifting it to a friend or anything like that. This is just going to be decluttered. Okay guys, so this next fragrance is one that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. And by the way, the next 6 fragrances that I'm going to share with you are all top recommendations. These are the fragrances that I told you at the beginning of the video that I would be speaking about, fragrances which are my top recommendation, because I have tried other fragrances that did remind me of a specific other fragrance, but this one is definitely, to me, the best. And I'm going to go ahead and start with Lattafa Mashrabya. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, okay? I apologize if I just mispronounced it. I don't know if it's Mashrabya or Mashrabya. I don't know. What I can tell you is that this fragrance at first sniff immediately reminded me of Kilian Smokin' Hot. And this fragrance, to me, is an absolute masterpiece. This is a fragrance that is warm, spicy. It has a good bit of vanilla, of caramel. You know, it has not been disclosed, but sometimes I've even wondered, is there a bit of tonka here? But when I tell you, this is a fragrance that has been at the top of my list in so many lineups because it is really that special. And truly, it is the one that reminds me the most of Kilian Smokin' Hot. I have a detailed review of this fragrance. I've discussed it several times here on the channel. So if you're interested in more detail, just go ahead and enter the name of the fragrance in the search bar on the channel page, and it will pull up the videos where I've discussed it. But this, to me, if you are looking for a scent profile that is very close to Kilian Smokin' Hot, then of all of the ones that I've tried to date, Mashrabya has got to be for sure the closest and the best. All right, so this next fragrance is one that, to me, it has been a game changer. This one is a fragrance, let me just start by saying, so this is Paris Corner Date Caramel. This is absolutely exceptional. This is a fragrance that, if you're familiar with Lush Sticky Dates, this is a fragrance that you definitely at least want to try. If that is a scent profile that you're really into, you definitely want to get your hands on Date Caramel. When I first sniffed this fragrance, I could not believe how it immediately brought to mind Sticky Dates. And Sticky Dates is a body spray, body mist that I have from Lush. And when I layer it with Date Caramel, it is just out of this world. This is absolutely exceptional. And to get this level of quality in a fragrance at this price point, to me, is just spectacular. Here you are, as the name says it, you are going to find some dates, but the thing is, the dates are mixed very nicely with a very present, not dominant, but present coffee note. There is a certain degree of orange or citrusy notes here, but what I get is definitely the orange. There's a ton of vanilla. There's like some sugar and some caramel. There is a difference between the sugar and the caramel because in the opening, I get the sugar. As the journey continues, I start to pick up on caramel, and the caramel is a syrupy, almost a tad smoky kind of caramel to my nose. It is just perfection. If you are a gourmand lover and you have not gotten your nose on Date Caramel, I highly encourage you to do so. There is no other affordable Middle Eastern fragrance that I've ever tried that reminds me of Lush Sticky Dates except this one. And I have also never tried a fragrance within, this range of fragrances that reminds me of Date Caramel, or that I could have compared it to Date Caramel. To me, this is a game changer and standing on its own. Let us know if you've tried Date Caramel and your thoughts. All right, so the next 4 fragrances that I have for you are all coming from the same fragrance house, and this is Ministry of Oud. Now, what I want to tell you is just because it says Ministry of Oud, don't think that every fragrance has the note of oud, because that is not the case, okay? I can tell you though that the quality of fragrance that you get out of the Ministry of Oud is absolutely exceptional. And these 4 fragrances that I'm going to share with you all remind me terribly, okay? Like truly remind me of the 4 fragrances that I'm going to reference when I speak about each. Let's go ahead and start with Oud Beyond the Wall. And I want to take a moment to admire this exquisite bottle. I hope that the camera is capturing the detail because this is absolutely beautifully done, exceptional quality. I can tell you that the feel of this fragrance is that of luxury and opulence. It is weighty, it is heavy, it is exquisitely designed. There's nothing cheap about it or cheesy or anything like that. This is just absolute perfection. This entire collection is absolutely exquisite. They all perform beautifully. Most of them are beast mode, this being one of them. But let me just continue. So this one is one that as soon as you sniff it, it's going to remind you of Gris Charnel. Truly, it's going to remind you of BDK Gris Charnel. But at that, there is a twist in this fragrance that takes it to the next level. This is absolutely incredible. If you have picked up Oud Beyond the Wall, can you please let us know your thoughts? Because this to me is off the charts. I have had these fragrances for a long time. You have seen me haul a couple of them and I've discussed them and reviewed them. And I had to circle back because now they've had a chance to sit, but I had to circle back because this is a collection that I don't think received the attention and credit that it really deserves. So when it comes to that twist, here's the thing. To me, this fragrance is more aromatic than what I recall Gris Charnel to be. The fragrance is more aromatic, it is fruitier, it has an apple note that I clearly pick up on, and the tonka has been emphasized much more because I get such a strong vanillic kind of caramelly effect or presence to the fragrance. I absolutely love this. This is such an incredible twist to that DNA. If you have tried this fragrance, please let us know. But I tell you, this is one that if you are into that scent profile, you really want to get your nose on because I think you're going to fall madly in love. So the next fragrance that I have for you, oh, again, it's from Ministry of Oud, but this one is Nile Whispers. And this is one that as soon as you spray it is going to remind you of the House of Oud Dates Delight. So take a look at this beautiful bottle before we get started, because I am telling you, these bottles are just an absolute work of art. So this is a fragrance that opens up very citrusy and fresh, spicy. Within that opening, you're immediately going to pick up on the dates, and the dates will stay with you throughout the entire journey and wear of this fragrance for sure. This is a fragrance that does have a woodiness to it, but the woodiness is creamy, especially at the dry down because of what I think to be patchouli. There are some white florals here, and I can't remember which is the one that they disclosed, but I am not picking up on that one specifically. I'm just picking up on like a bouquet of white florals. At all that, you are going to find a good bit of vanilla, but the fragrance is not very sweet for sure. This is a musk-based fragrance, but this is not an animalic musk, but it is a very, very present musk to the tune of like a 4 to 5, which is quite high. So you do have to enjoy a musk-based fragrance. To me, this one is much more musky. It is less sweet, but it has more of a woody background to it. But other than that, this one reminds me very, very much so of Dates Delight. All right, so the next one that I have for you is from the Ministry of Oud, and this one is Romance Reverie. And here is the bottle of this one. Beautiful, beautiful bottle. I mean, look at the Eiffel Tower there in the corner. Isn't that exquisitely beautiful? I tell you, just to have this like on your shelf or wherever you display your fragrances, if you display them, this is just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But let's talk about the juice. So this is one that as soon as you spray it, if you are a Xerjoff collector, I'm sure you have L Anniversary or L. And this one, as soon as you spray it, that's what it gave me. But here's the thing, L Anniversary is a very, very smooth fragrance. It has some fruity notes, it has some florals, it is very ambery, it has some vanilla, some patchouli, some musk, but the performance doesn't lack necessarily, but it is designed to be a very, very smooth fragrance. This one, whoa, this is your dream come true. If you wanted Elle to last longer, to perform better, this is the answer to that request, because I tell you, this reminds me completely of that fragrance, but the projection, the sillage, the longevity, it is just incredible. This fragrance actually announces itself. Before you get to where you're going, it is going to let others know that you've arrived and that you are wearing this exquisitely fabulous fragrance. The fragrance is not very sweet, but it is sweet. It is quite fruity. It has some florals, and the florals that I pick up on the most are the peony, #1, and then like iris violet. I can't put my finger on those two, but it's one of those two. As I said before, there is quite a bit of vanilla. This is a musk-based fragrance, and the musk here is not animalic. This is an exquisitely beautiful, leaning heavy to the feminine side kind of fragrance. This is for those days where you just feel dreamy and flowy and feminine. That is what you want to pull this fragrance for, because I tell you, it is an absolute delight to wear. Let us know if you've tried Romance Reverie and your thoughts. But remember that this one is the one that reminds me the most of Elle Anniversary. All right, so the next fragrance that I have for you is also from the Ministry of Oud, and this one is Gladiator's Oath. And take a look at this beautiful bottle. And can you see there like the Roman Colosseum here on the corner? I tell you, the level of detail has been exquisite for this entire collection. I am so, so happy that I have them all. And by the way, they were all sent to me in PR, not recently, quite a while ago. Right, so this is fragrance that as soon as you spray it is going to remind you of Goldfield and Banks' Silky Woods. But I have to tell you, this fragrance is just absolutely stellar, because Silky Woods to me truly is a fragrance that is about the silkiness of a very woody dominant fragrance. But here, if you can even believe it, there's two things that happened that totally blew me away. #1, it is actually silkier than what I recall, Silky Woods to be. It is definitely silkier, not more refined, but silkier. There's a greater degree of smoothness to it. And in addition to that, even though it is silkier and smoother, it has a beast mode performance, which I can't even believe. I don't know how they did that, but it has been done beautifully. The thing about this fragrance is that it is a very strong combination, or very intense combination, of white and yellow florals on a very woody backdrop. There is no mistaking the woodiness in this fragrance. It is very ambery. There is some vanilla here, but at the end of the day, this fragrance is all about those yellow and white florals playing well together on a background of a very intense woodiness. The other thing about this one is that it does open spicy. It opens as spicy as I recall the one that it reminds me of to open, but the opening is really controlled by the note of saffron, which is not necessarily what I experienced with Silky Woods. So I would say you have to enjoy the note of saffron, because the opening is truly loaded with saffron. Then other spices come in. I can't really distinguish them. The only one that is clear to my nose is the saffron. And immediately you are going to get those yellow and white florals, and the woodiness is with you from first sniff to the dry down and throughout the wear of the fragrance. The woodiness just intensifies, and at some points it does become a bit creamy, but at the end, what you're going to get is a very floral fragrance on a very strong, dominant, woody background that has a touch of spiciness to it. But this is a fragrance that if you've been looking for something that is very close to Goldfield and Banks Silky Woods, or that will remind you maybe of Goldfield and Banks Silky Woods, then this is the one that you definitely want to try. Let us know if you have tried Gladiator's Oath and your thoughts. All right, so this next comparison is one that I have done before, but I keep getting the question, so I am just going to answer it again today. And this is regarding French Avenue Vulcan Faux versus Lattafa Opulent Dubai. I'm going to repeat yet again, these both are magnificent, magnificent reminders. At least they remind me tremendously of Stefan Humbert Luca's God of Fire. But I have to tell you, of the two, the one that I'm really preferring is Opulent Dubai. If you have Vulcan Faux, do you need Opulent Dubai? Absolutely not. It's just that I am finding, and the more this has a chance to sit, the more I'm picking up on it. There is a level of intensity here on certain notes and accords that I personally prefer that I'm not necessarily finding in Vulcan Faux. But these are pretty much the exact same scent profile with negligible differences between one and the other. You can't go wrong with any of the two. You asked me which one is my favorite, so I have to give you a favorite, so I'm giving you Opulent Dubai, but Vulcan Faux is also a favorite. Now, I will tell you, for those of you who just really don't enjoy that snake motif, because some of you don't in the fam, well then, Opulent Dubai is an excellent opportunity. Absolutely beautiful bottle. But at the end of the day, these to me are pretty much the same and remind me tremendously of Stefan Humbert Luca's God of Fire. Another question that I am getting over and over and over, and I can almost understand why the confusion, because this is definitely a confusion, right? And it's when it comes to Lattafa Atheeri and Maison Asrar's Oh Honey. Now, these two fragrances are not even the same scent profile, guys. They are really not. One is not duping or imitating or inspired by the other. These are two completely different scent profiles and fragrances and scents and experiences. I think that the confusion comes from the fact that they both have that bee motif and they both have like that honeycomb cap and design going on. I understand. But let me just say that if you are a honey fragrances lover, the one that you really want to pick up is Oh Honey from Maison Asrar, because Atheeri is a lovely fragrance. I absolutely love it. I have highly recommended it from day one, but this is really not a honey-centric fragrance. And the more it has a chance to sit, the more I confirm that this was not designed to be a honey-centric fragrance whatsoever. This to me is more of a spring and summer focused launch. And this one is designed to give you honey all the way, all the way. And now that it's had a chance to sit, it's even getting a tad animalic, which is adding to that very dominant honey note and accords that stem from it. But I am telling you, so when you guys ask me, okay, which one of these two is a better honey fragrance, I only have one answer. Oh Honey. And that's only because Atheeri to me is not a honey-centric fragrance at all. I hope that that settles that. This is not the first time that I talk about these two, but it is a question that I continuously get. All right, so the next fragrance is a fragrance that I reviewed quite a while ago, but I don't know why, but for some reason I have been getting questions around this one recently, and we're not even like in the season for this one, but hey, I'm just going to go ahead and discuss it. And I want to talk to you about Niche Emarati, Lattafa Niche Emarati, and this one is Zikra. Now, Zikra is a fragrance that I truly made an exception for because it is that exceptional. So this one, as soon as you spray it, is going to remind you of Kilian's Angel Share. So earlier, I talked to you about Kilian Angel Share, but it was Paradis, with the raspberry added note, with the fruitiness. This one is truly reminding me of the very first launch, which is the original Kilian's Angel Share. This one has that cinnamon, that cognac, it has all of it, right? And it performs beautifully. But the difference here is that this one is a bit airier. This is a fragrance that you could pull for the spring season. No, I wouldn't say the summer at all, but when it comes to the original Kilian's Angel Share, I only pull that fragrance during the fall and winter seasons. And if the fall is a day where it's kind of confused and it forgot that it's fall, not summer, then I do not pull that fragrance at all. So warm weather is not a fit, in my opinion, for Kilian's Angel Share DNA. But when it comes to this fragrance, you can definitely pull it during the spring, the fall, and the winter season because it is quite airy. Not just in the opening, but at the dry down, it's not watered down, it's not diluted, it's not faint. It is truly that same DNA, in my opinion, on paper and on, into my nose, but it is a bit airier. So if you're asking me if this is one that you should pick up if you are looking for a fragrance that really reminds you of Kilian's Angel Share, then this is one that you may want to get your nose on or just pick up, because I think you're going to be very, very impressed. All right, fam, so we have reached the end of today's video, and I hope that you were able to get the information that you need and that I have been able to answer all of your questions around all of these fragrances, groupings, and otherwise. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Thank you so much for hanging with me today. Please remember that there will be a bonus Middle Eastern fragrances video this Sunday with the review of the latest Sehr fragrance. And thank you so much for hanging with me today, and I will see you all in the next video.